Singapore will launch 6 satellites in India tomorrow to help in areas like urban planning and disaster management across Southeast Asia.
Now, these satellites will orbit around the equator, and this will allow the satellites to produce images more frequently, from once every few days to once in just 100 minutes. Leong Wai Kit tells us more.
The launch will take 20 minutes. A rocket will carry the 6 satellites. When it reaches 550 kilometers from the Earth's surface, it'll launch the satellites, one after another, 30 seconds apart, to avoid collision. The satellites are made by 2 of Singapore's universities as well as a commercial company. And for the first time, the satellites will orbit around the equator, gathering data that will benefit those in the region.
Most satellites take about 100 minutes or an hour and a half to make one full round, whether it's from the north to the south and back or around the equator. The disadvantage of having satellites rotate this way is that, let's say I have a special interest in a region, say Singapore. As the satellite moves, don't forget the Earth also rotates. So by the time it makes one full rotation, the satellite may have missed that region. So there are only 2 windows of opportunities for the satellite to take images of that region. However, if it's rotating around the equator, then the flight path won't deviate. And therefore, the satellite can take images of Singapore once every 100 minutes.
Apart from getting frequent images for owners of the satellites, it means having more control of information.
If we have our own Singapore-made satellite, and we can actually customize the technology, the kind of sensor, the instrument that we want to have. So to meet our own need, for instance, we may eventually build up some satellite with instrument to monitor haze and things like that. So we almost get the information instantaneously. So anywhere, anytime.
The 6 satellites range in types and sizes. For instance, the Telios-1, a 400-kilogram satellite produced by ST Electronics, and the Cambridge-1, a 77-kilogram satellite made by the National University of Singapore. Each of these satellites can complement one another in space.
The satellite will be able to produce information at a much higher frequency. And this will surely be very important when you use it for disasters monitoring in the region like Southeast Asia. Nepal, you are looking for people, you are looking for building collapse. So you use the Cambridge-1, you see big picture, big crater, big holes, big building being collapsed, and then you see a bigger area. Whereas you use Telos, you see a small area, but you can see very precise this building collapse, not just collapse, it's a 10-story, collapse under 3-story.
For urban planning, before you start to plan a township, you will want to take a look at the terrain, look at the area around it, and see what you have down there, and what kind of obstacles you may face, where are the drainage system, where are the main highway.
Other applications include defense, such as tracking threats in the sea and air. But there's space for more work to be done. For instance, engineers are starting to look at how satellites can work without solar power, which means we could one day get images even at night.
Singapore launched 6 satellites today to help in areas like urban planning and disaster management across Southeast Asia. Now, the satellites were launched an hour and a half ago from the Satish Dhawan Space Centre in Andhra Pradesh state in India. The satellites will orbit around the equator, producing images from once every few days to once in just 100 minutes.
The Singapore-made satellites are equipped with sensors and instruments to meet local needs, such as monitoring of the haze. The satellites will also be able to complement one another, generating images of the overall terrain for urban planning. They could also zoom in on single buildings that may have collapsed in the event of a natural disaster.